are not that perfect. You don't get them right out and everything. And so the other 3 patients I was going to discuss were in those situations. Right after we got, probably about a month and a half after I came to King Cove, I came in to work, and there was a little baby there at 8:15. First thing in the morning, Mom had come in. Apparently she had started to get sick during the night. And so she brought her right in. And my background, much of my background was children's emergency, so I'm very, very comfortable with those patients. And I came in, and the little baby was having trouble breathing, and so I recognized, that she had an upper respiratory infection, and so we started breathing treatments, and usually they respond quickly, but she did not. She continued to get worse. So I decided within the first hour or 2 that she was going to need to go to Anchorage to the hospital. That there's just a point you see where your treatments don't, that they're not going to turn around. You need to start thinking about getting them out. So I called the hospital in Anchorage and spoke to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician said, yes, of course, let's directly admit her, and we'll call Guardian, to come out. So Guardian calls me back about 30, 45 minutes later and says, we're on weather hold. We don't know if we can come out. The weather was very bad that day. It was 60, 70 mile per hour winds. It was in April, which is still a winter month in Alaska. And so, I had the baby in there, was pretty much had her on continuous breathing treatments, giving her medications to try to open up her airway. She stopped wanting to feed, which is what happens when a baby has difficulty breathing, because they don't want to feed because they won't be able to breathe. They're nose breathers. So I started IV fluids to keep her hydrated. And so back on the phone, and the Guardian calls back, and they said, we can't come. Matter of fact, not only they couldn't even come to Cold Bay. So I said, oh, well, what am I supposed to do now? And, I'm going to call Coast Guard. So I called Coast Guard, and there was no Coast Guard in Cold Bay. They were I believe they were in Kodiak. And I spoke to the flight surgeon, and she immediately said, yes, this patient needs to go. And so we were coordinating the Coast Guard, and by this time it's about lunchtime. The baby's getting worse, continuing to get worse despite everything I'm giving her. And the Coast Guard calls back, and they said, we don't know if we can come to King Cove. They were going to send the C-130 to Cold Bay, and that was all good, but they said, we don't know if we can send the chopper. The weather is too bad. And I thought, the weather is too bad for the Coast Guard. It's bad. And because they never say that. And so I was genuinely starting to get worried. The baby was breathing about 80 times a minute, if you can imagine. Mom and dad are there, grandparents. It's very stressful. I started to get very worried. I went to my colleague and I said, if we need to have a plan for her, and so we kind of had a plan about what we would do, and important to remember, we don't have ventilators in King Cove, so we don't have a breathing machine for anyone to sustain life support. So if you have to put an airway in a patient, you have to stand there and bag them, like you've probably seen on medical shows and such. And so that was what we were talking about, and my colleague was she's a nurse practitioner, and she said, okay. I said, I think we might have to look at intubating her and bagging her, and we're just going to have to take turns bagging her. If you have to bag for hours and hours, that's what you have to do. So it was pretty worrisome. And finally, the Coast Guard called back, and they said, do you have anywhere we can land? We can't land on your airfield. Is there a road we can land on? And the hovercraft was still on this spot where they might have been able to land, but the hovercraft was not running. And so I said, I don't know. I've only been here a month. I have no idea. Anyway, they said, we're going to make a try for the airfield. That was at 4:30 in the afternoon. My colleague Cindy, she agreed to ride on the chopper with the patient to Cold Bay. She used to be a flight nurse. There was nothing for her. She said, I've always wanted to ride in a Coast Guard chopper. So I said, okay. And off they went. But the weather was so bad that Cindy said they kept going in the direction of King Cove, and the wind literally pushed the Coast Guard chopper back. And they had to circle around. They almost decided to go to Sand Point instead. And finally, after 3 tries where they circled around and the chopper was bucking and weaving and with a little baby and parents, I mean, Cindy said it was horrible. And they finally made it to Cold Bay and to the C-130, which was there, and they took the baby. And baby's doing fine now. She's a very happy, healthy little girl, but you probably never know how close things got. Yeah, it was still just one of those things you'll never forget. But I thought, granted the weather was bad and it would have been a horrible ambulance ride, but it would have been an ambulance, we could have gotten her in a lot faster.
She was fading throughout the day. Her temperature